The sun hung low over the small town of Crestwood, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. The air was thick with the scent of motor oil and fresh-cut grass, a familiar blend for 16-year-old Mia Harper, who spent most of her days elbow-deep in engine grease at her father's auto shop. Harper's Auto Repair was a squat cinderblock building on the edge of town, its faded sign creaking in the breeze. Inside, Mia was tinkering with a carburetor, her fingers nimble and sure, her dark ponytail swinging as she hummed to an old rock tune playing on the shop's ancient radio. Mia wasn't just good with cars, she was exceptional. Her father, Tom Harper, often bragged she could diagnose an engine problem faster than most mechanics twice her age. Growing up in the shop, she'd learned to love the rhythm of a well-tuned motor, the way each part fit together like a puzzle. But in Crestwood, a town where football reigned supreme and girls were expected to cheer from the sidelines, Mia's passion for mechanics made her an oddity. The kids at school called her Grease Girl, their laughter sharp as they mocked her oil-stained jeans and the faint smudge of grime that always seemed to linger on her cheek. That afternoon, the shop was quiet, save for the clink of Mia's wrench and the occasional honk from the highway. Tom was out back, sorting through a shipment of parts, leaving Mia to man the front. She was wiping her hands on a rag when a sleek, cherry-red Ferrari 488 Spider purred into the lot. The car gleamed under the sun, its curves almost liquid, like it had been poured rather than built. Mia's breath caught. She'd seen pictures of Ferraris in her dad's old car magazines, but never one up close. It was a work of art, a mechanical symphony in red. The driver's door opened, and a man stepped out, tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his sunglasses catching the light. He looked out of place in Crestwood like a movie star who'd taken a wrong turn. Mia recognized him vaguely from the news. Ethan Caldwell, tech billionaire, known for his flashy cars and even flashier donations to charity. Rumor had it he was passing through town on his way to a car show in the city. "Hey, kid," Ethan called, his voice smooth but impatient. "I need someone to take a look at this. It's making a weird noise." Mia nodded, her heart racing. "Sure thing. Pop the hood and I'll check it out." Ethan raised an eyebrow, glancing at her worn sneakers and the wrench in her hand. "You? Where's the mechanic?" "My dad's out back." "I can handle it," Mia said, keeping her tone steady despite the sting of his doubt. She was used to it. Customers often assumed she was just the help, not the talent. Ethan shrugged, clearly skeptical, and opened the hood. Mia leaned in, her eyes scanning the engine with practiced ease. The Ferrari's V8 was a masterpiece, all polished metal and precision. She listened as Ethan started the engine, the roar filling the shop. There it was, a faint, irregular tick. She ran her fingers lightly over the components, checking for loose fittings, her mind racing through possibilities. As she worked, a group of kids from school appeared at the edge of the lot. Jake Miller and his crew, the kind of guys who wore letterman jackets like armor and never missed a chance to make Mia feel small. Jake spotted her and grinned, nudging his friends. "Yo, Grease Girl's touching a Ferrari," he shouted, his voice dripping with mockery. "Careful, Mia, you'll get your dirt all over it." The others laughed, their voices carrying over the hum of the engine. Mia's cheeks burned, but she kept her focus on the car, refusing to let them get to her. Ethan, standing nearby, glanced at the group, his expression unreadable behind his. "Sunglasses, got something to say, boys?" Ethan asked, his tone cool but edged with authority. Jake faltered, his bravado slipping. "Just messing around, man. She's not exactly Ferrari material, you know?" Ethan didn't respond, turning his attention back to Mia. She ignored the taunts, her fingers finding a loose valve cover bolt. "This might be it," she muttered, grabbing a torque wrench to tighten it. "Could be causing a misfire. Let's see?" She worked quickly, her movements precise. The ticking stopped when Ethan revved the engine again. Mia stepped back, wiping her hands on her rag, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Should be good now. If it acts up again, bring it back." Ethan studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Not bad, kid, not bad at all." He reached for his wallet, pulling out a crisp $100 bill. For your trouble? Mia shook her head. First fix is on the house. Shop policy. Ethan's eyebrows shot up. You sure? Most people would jump at this. We're not most people, Mia said simply, meeting his gaze. He pocketed the bill, a faint smile playing on his lips. Fair enough? Thanks, Mia. As he drove off, the Ferrari's purr fading into the distance, Jake and his friends lingered. Their laughter quieter now, less certain. Mia ignored them, turning back to the carburetor she'd been working on. But inside, her heart was still racing. She'd fixed a Ferrari. A freaking Ferrari. The next day, the shop was busier than usual. A delivery truck had broken down, and Tom was swamped with calls for tow jobs. Mia was under an old pickup when she heard the familiar purr of the Ferrari again. She slid out, surprised to see Ethan back so soon. Problem with the car? She asked, wiping her hands. Nope. Runs like a dream, Ethan said, leaning against the Ferrari's hood. I'm here for you. Mia blinked, confused. Me? I did some digging, Ethan said, his tone casual but his eyes sharp. Heard you're the best mechanic in this town, maybe even the county. Also heard you're getting some flack for it. That true? Mia shrugged, uncomfortable with the attention. People talk, I don't listen. Ethan nodded, as if he'd expected that answer. I've got a proposition. I'm hosting a car show in the city this weekend. Big event, lots of high-end cars. I need someone with your skills to help with on-site repairs. Pays well, and you'd get to work on some of the best machines in the world. Interested? Mia's jaw dropped. You're serious? Dead serious. I don't offer jobs to just anyone. She hesitated, glancing at the shop. I'd have to talk to my dad. He needs me here. Bring him along, Ethan said. I'll cover his time too. That evening, Mia sat with Tom at their small kitchen table, the smell of spaghetti filling the air. She told him about Ethan's offer, her words tumbling out faster than she meant them to. Tom listened, his weathered face thoughtful. You sure about this, kiddo? He asked. It's a big step. Those city folks can be different. I know, Mia said, but it's a chance to work on cars most mechanics only dream about. And it's not just about the money, it's about proving I can do this. Tom smiled, his eyes crinkling. You don't need to prove anything to me. But if you want this, I'm in. The car show was like nothing Mia had ever seen. The city convention center was a sea of gleaming metal. Lamborghinis, Porsches, vintage Jaguars, each car more stunning than the last. The air buzzed with excitement. The crowd a mix of car enthusiasts, collectors, and influencers snapping photos for their feeds. Mia felt out of place in her work boots and faded flannel, but she pushed the feeling aside, focusing on the job. Ethan had set her up with a small repair station near the main stage, where she handled minor fixes for the show's prized vehicles. Word spread quickly about the teenage mechanic who could coax a misbehaving Maserati back to life in minutes. By midday, owners were seeking her out, their skepticism melting when they saw her work. But not everyone was impressed. A group of mechanics, from a high-end shop in the city, all older men with polished tools and egos to match, watched her with barely concealed disdain. One of them, a burly guy named Carl, made a point of loud-talking her every chance he got. Kid's gonna ruin someone's car, Carl muttered to his buddies, loud enough for Mia to hear. This ain't a place for amateurs. Mia gritted her teeth, focusing on the Porsche 911 she was tuning. She'd heard worse. But when Carl deliberately bumped her toolbox, sending her tools clattering across the floor, something in her snapped. Got a problem? She asked, standing up, her voice steady despite the heat in her chest. Carl smirked. Just wondering why a high schooler's playing with million-dollar cars. Go back to your daddy's shop, sweetheart. The crowd nearby went quiet, sensing a scene. Mia's hands clenched, but before she could respond, Ethan appeared, his presence commanding attention. Problem here? He asked, his gaze flicking. Between Mia and Carl. Just saying she's out of her depth, Carl said, crossing his arms. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Funny. I've been watching her all day and she's outworked every one of you. Fixed a McLaren's electrical issue in 10 minutes flat. How long did it take you to change a spark plug this morning, Carl? 20? 30? Carl's face reddened, and the crowd murmured some stifling laughs. Ethan turned to Mia. You good? She nodded, her jaw tight. I'm fine. Good. Keep doing what you're doing. Ethan clapped her on the shoulder and walked off, leaving Carl to stew in his embarrassment. The rest of the day passed in a blur of oil changes, diagnostics, and the thrill of working on cars she'd only read about. But the real turning point came that evening during the show's closing ceremony. Ethan took the stage, the spotlight glinting off his suit as he addressed the crowd. I want to tell you about someone I met this week, he began, his voice carrying over the hum of the crowd. A young woman who fixed my Ferrari with more skill than most mechanics I've known. She's 16, works in a small-town shop, and gets mocked for doing what she loves. But she doesn't let it stop her. That's the kind of heart and talent we need in this industry. Mia froze, her heart pounding as Ethan gestured toward her. The crowd turned, hundreds of eyes on her. She wanted to sink into the floor, but Ethan's next words stopped her cold. Mia Harper, come up here. Her legs felt like lead as she climbed the stage, the crowd's applause washing over her. Ethan handed her a microphone, his smile warm. Tell them what you told me about fixing cars. Mia swallowed, her voice shaky at first. It's not about the car. It's about understanding how everything fits together. Every part has a purpose. And if you listen, it'll tell you what's wrong. You just have to care enough to hear it. The crowd erupted, their cheers louder than she'd expected. Mia's eyes stung, but she blinked back the tears, refusing to let them fall. Ethan leaned in, his voice low. I'm starting a scholarship for young mechanics, and you're my first pick. Full ride, anywhere you want to study. You in? Mia's breath caught. She thought of her dad, the shop, the years of grease-stained hands and late nights studying engines. She thought of Jake's laughter, Carl's sneer, and every person who doubted her. Then she thought of the Ferrari's purr after she'd fixed it, the way it felt to solve a problem no one else could. I'm in, she said, her voice steady now. The crowd roared again, and Mia felt something shift inside her, a quiet strength she hadn't known she had. As she stepped off the stage, her dad was there, his eyes shining with pride. He pulled her into a hug, and for the first time in a long time, Mia didn't feel like the odd one out. The scholarship changed everything. Mia went on to study automotive engineering at MIT, where she graduated top of her class. She never forgot Crestwood, though, or the shop where she'd learned to love the hum of an engine. Years later, when she opened her own design firm specializing in eco-friendly performance cars, she made sure to hire mechanics from small towns, kids like her who'd been told they didn't belong. And every year, at Ethan's car show, she returned, not as a kid in flannel, but as a trailblazer, her name whispered with respect. Jake and his crew were long gone, their taunts a distant memory. But Mia never forgot the feeling of proving them wrong. Not with words, but with her hands, her heart, and a wrench that could fix anything. Mia Harper's life after the car show felt like the start of a new engine, one that had been idling too long and was finally given the chance to roar. The scholarship from Ethan Caldwell opened doors she'd never dared to dream of, but it didn't erase the weight of Crestwood's expectations or the echoes of Grease Girl that still lingered in her mind. Back home, the town buzzed with gossip about her moment in the spotlight. Some folks were proud, stopping by the shop to congratulate Tom and slap Mia on the back like she was one of their own. Others, like Jake Miller's parents, muttered about how a girl like her didn't belong in a place like MIT, their words tinged with envy and something sharper. Mia tried to ignore the noise, focusing instead on the future. She spent her last summer before college in the shop, working alongside her dad, teaching him some of the tricks she'd picked up at the car show. Tom was quieter these days, his hands slower than they used to be, but his pride in Mia shone, brighter than ever. You're gonna change the world, kiddo, he'd say, his voice rough with emotion. Mia would just smile, unsure if she believed him, but wanting to. The move to Boston was a shock. MIT's campus was a whirlwind of sharp minds and sharper ambitions, a far cry from Crestwood's sleepy streets. Mia's dorm room was small, cluttered with textbooks and a single photo of her and Tom standing in front of the shop, both grinning, their hands stained with grease. She'd stare at that photo on tough days when the coursework felt overwhelming or when her classmates, most of them from wealthier backgrounds, glanced at her thrift store clothes with thinly veiled judgment. But in the lab, surrounded by engines and schematics, Mia was unstoppable. Her professors noticed, singling her out for projects that pushed her to think beyond repairs and into design, cars that could run cleaner, faster, smarter. It was during her sophomore year that Mia's path crossed Ethan's again. He was in Boston for a tech conference and invited her to dinner at a restaurant so fancy it made her palms sweat. She showed up in her best jeans and a clean flannel, feeling like a wrench in a toolbox full of diamonds. Ethan didn't seem to care, greeting her with the same easy smile he'd had in Crestwood. "You're making waves, Mia," he said over plates of food she couldn't pronounce. "Heard you're working on a hybrid engine design that's got your professors buzzing." Mia shrugged, poking at her salad. "It's just an idea. Trying to make performance cars sustainable without losing the soul of the drive." Ethan leaned forward, his eyes glinting with interest. "That's not just an idea. That's the future. You keep going, you'll be running your own company someday." Mia laughed, the sound nervous. "I just want to build something that matters." "You will," Ethan said, his tone leaving no room for doubt. "And when you're ready, I want in. Investor, mentor, whatever you need." The conversation stuck with her, a spark that grew into something bigger. By her senior year, Mia's hybrid engine prototype had won a national competition, earning her a grant and attention from major car manufacturers. She could have taken a cushy job at any of them, but Ethan's words echoed in her mind. She didn't want to work for someone else's dream. She wanted to build her own. After graduation, Mia returned to Crestwood for a few months, helping Tom keep the shop afloat. The town hadn't changed much, same diner, same Friday night football games. But she carried herself with a quiet confidence, her hands still calloused but her mind sharper, filled with ideas for a company that could blend high-performance engineering with eco-conscious design. Tom saw it too. And one evening, as they closed up the shop, he handed her a small worn keychain shaped like a wrench. "Found this in a box of old parts," he said, his voice gruff. "Your mom gave it to me when we first opened the shop. Said it'd bring us luck. I think you should have it now." Mia's throat tightened. Her mom had passed when she was 6, leaving behind only faint memories and stories Tom told over late-night dinners. She took the keychain, her fingers tracing its edges. "Thanks, Dad." With the grant money and a loan from Ethan, Mia launched Harper Motors in a small warehouse outside Crestwood. She started with a team of 3, herself, a quirky engineer, named Lila she'd met at MIT, and a local kid named Sam, who reminded Mia of herself at 16. All raw talent, and no one to believe in him. They worked long hours, sketching designs, testing prototypes, and arguing over coffee about how to make a car that could outrun a Ferrari while using half the fuel. The first year was brutal. Suppliers were skeptical, investors were cautious, and the industry wasn't kind to newcomers, especially a young woman from nowhere. But Mia's stubbornness, forged in the fires of Crestwood's taunts and Carl's sneers, kept her going. She poured her heart into every design, every bolt, every test drive, and slowly, the world started to notice. Harper Motors' first car, the H1, debuted at Ethan's car show 5 years after Mia's first appearance there. It was a sleek, electric hybrid coupe with a growl that rivaled any gas guzzler, and it turned heads. Car magazines raved about its balance of power and efficiency, calling it the future of performance. Ethan, true to his word, was there, beaming like a proud uncle as Mia took the stage to accept an award for innovation. "This isn't just about cars," she told the crowd, her voice steady now, no trace of the nervous girl from years ago. "It's about proving that you can love what you do, no matter who says you shouldn't. It's about building something that lasts." The crowd cheered, but Mia's eyes found her dad in the front row, his face wet with tears. Next to him stood Sam, now a full-time engineer at Harper Motors, and Lila, who'd become her best friend. They were her family, the ones who'd believed in her when the world hadn't. After the show, Ethan pulled her aside. "You've done it, Mia. You've changed the game." "Not yet," she said, a spark in her eyes. "This is just the start." Harper Motors grew, opening a second facility in California and hiring more young mechanics from small towns, kids who'd been overlooked but had fire in their hearts. Mia made it a point to mentor them herself, remembering how Ethan's faith in her had changed everything. She also started a foundation, funding scholarships for kids like Sam, ensuring they'd have the chances she'd fought for. Back in Crestwood, the shop became a point of pride. Tom still ran it, though Mia's success meant he could afford to hire help and take a day off now and then. The town's attitude had shifted. Jake Miller's crew had scattered after high school, and the ones who stayed spoke of Mia with a mix of awe and regret. The Grease Girl nickname was gone, replaced by stories of the local girl who'd taken on the world. One summer, Mia returned to Crestwood for a visit, driving an H1 prototype in midnight blue. She pulled into the shop's lot, where a group of kids, some barely teens, were hanging around eyeing the car with wide eyes. One of them, a girl with braided hair and a smudge of dirt on her cheek, stepped forward. "Is it true you built this?" the girl asked, her voice shy but curious. Mia smiled, crouching to meet her gaze. "Yeah, want to see how it works?" The girl's face lit up, and Mia spent the afternoon showing her the engine, explaining the hybrid system, and letting her hold the wrench keychain, now a talisman of sorts. As the sun set, casting that same orange-pink glow over Crestwood, Mia felt a warmth she couldn't explain. It wasn't just about the cars or the success. It was about this, passing on the spark, proving to another kid that they could be more than what their town expected. Years later, when Mia was invited to speak at MIT, she stood before a room of students, her hair still tied back in a ponytail, her hands still calloused. She told them about Crestwood, about the Ferrari, about the taunts and the triumphs. She told them about her dad, about Ethan, about the girl with the braids who was now an intern at Harper Motors. "Kindness and hard work can change everything," she said, her voice carrying the weight of her journey. "Not just for you, but for everyone who comes after. So find what you love, and don't let anyone tell you it's not yours to claim." The room erupted in applause, and Mia smiled, her heart full. She'd built more than cars. She'd built a legacy, one wrench at a time.